With Black Ops 7 zombies on the horizon, all signs point to the Primis Crew returning in Tranzit Reimagined for the first time since Black Ops 4 zombies, which begs the question, was BO4 over, under, or appropriately rated? Stanley557 enters Perkaholics Anonymous Podcast for episode 7 to discuss. What's up, Clutch Squad, and welcome back to Perkaholics Anonymous Podcast for episode 7 of the show. Jeff is currently on vacation, but the show must go on, so thankfully, we're joined by the man known for his in-depth game reviews. He's the Voyage of Despair truther himself. It's Stanley557, and hopefully being the cat maybe as well. Stanley, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good. Hello there, fellow zombie slayers. Speaking of the cat, he is right back there. He's giving himself a bath, but he's doing good. Look at
Let's
Bean.
go, my man Bean. Before we do anything, man, congrats on getting engaged. That's so awesome, bro.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So I'm like over the moon about it. So excited.
Have you started doing any planning yet, or too early? Just kind of
we've already got we've got a venue already ready. We're looking at photographers right now. We're already working on our guest list. We just finished our like wedding. There's invitations and then there's save the dates.
Yeah.
And I think we did a save the date.
Oh, nice. You guys are
I literally forget. We have the website already ready. We have pictures already ready. So
let's go, dude.
Yeah, we're on the
That's
ball.
hype. You guys are moving. Before we get into anything else, guys, please remember to like the video. Check to see that you're subscribed and that you have the notification bell on. Also, check us out on Spotify as well. All the episodes are uploaded over there now under Perkaholics Anonymous Podcast. Also, leave any questions in the comments for next week's Community Corner. Without further ado, Stanley, the first thing we're going to talk about today is Black Ops 4 Zombies. It was kind of the reason why we got you on the pod back in like 2 weeks ago. I think 3 weeks ago we started talking about it on Twitter. I put out kind of honestly more of like a baity tweet. I don't really hate it as much as the tweet made it look like, but I'm going to just let you go on a rant here. Do you think it's under, over, or appropriately rated?
I'd say at this point, it's pretty appropriately rated. I'd say that BO4 has managed to find its audience and its place. I'd say just like any other zombies game like IW or World War II or Cold War, where they found their audiences. But like years before, they were, I'd say, criminally underrated. But I'd say BO4 has found a good place where it can stand, where maps are properly rated. Some people think the maps are complete garbage. Some people think they're the best thing ever. And then some people think they're just okay. So it really ranges on how you like that specific gameplay loop.
Yeah.
But what about you?
Dude,
what do you think?
A lot of people took my tweet as like, oh, dude, you hate Black Ops 4 and I never got over the launch. Like, to me, honestly, like, I don't know. I've just had a lot of people in my comments over the last like 3 to 4 months be like, oh, the downfall of zombies is of all this stuff started with Cold War. The last good game was BO4. And like, I don't hate BO4. I really like it. I actually went back and got some gameplay last night for the podcast. So like, I kind of enjoyed, my casual playthrough last night. But, like, people don't really understand how bad the community was during BO4, especially at the launch.
Terrible.
Like, dude, they tore things apart there. Between the backlash at launch with like the blue screening and the crashing and just people not being really receptive to the Chaos Crew when they were first introduced, it just seems like, again, I don't personally hate the game. I don't think it's a bad game at all, but people are kind of starting to look at it with the rose-tinted glasses, in my opinion, based on how the game plays today versus how it was living through it up until about like Ancient Evil, when I'd say like the MTX was overhauled, everything else kind of was changed.
Yeah, 100%. I'm looking at the tweet again right now, and I know I totally agree with the concept of dead on arrival. As much as I love it, the game was fighting community not really into it, the developers being over ambitious, and then you have Activision overhead breathing down the game's neck. So all of this coming to a head, and yeah, the game was quite literally dead on arrival. I mean, to the point where when Dead of the Night came out, it shadow launched, so no one knew it was coming out. There's no marketing behind it. Like, we talk about maps, just dropping sometimes, or like dropping with minimal marketing. Dead of the Night had no marketing. Same thing with like maps like Attack.
Yeah, that was one of the weirdest launches ever for like anything Call of Duty I think I've ever lived through in the community. Like, I remember I was at school at the time, and like, honestly, like, I was playing the hell out of the game. My buddies that I roomed with and that I was IRL friends with were playing like Blackout, and we're really into multiplayer and ranked and stuff, but I was still sticking to zombies. I was really defending it. And then literally out of nowhere, it seemed like they dropped the intro cutscene and they were like coming out in 2 days or whatever, and I was like, what? Like, that's so odd considering.
It was just like, it was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays we have a pretty good like lead up cycle to maps coming out. We know when this stuff's coming out. We have a pretty good idea, especially with the whole seasonal stuff. Whereas back then, Treyarch just kind of they just like would reveal stuff up to it, but then they would just release it. And then with like Dead of the Night, there was nothing, and it just came out.
Right.
But what made you lose faith in the game? Like, what made you just like, or not lose faith, but like, what made you just kind of like not love it? I'm curious. I know we have the tweet pulled up.
Yeah,
but I want to hear it in your own words.
I liked the game playing through it, and I was one of the people that was like defending the game when everyone was slandering Alpha Omega, because like honestly, like they had kind of brought it around with Dead of the Night and Ancient Evil. Like people were kind of still on the hype train a little bit, or getting back on it after those two maps, and people were really invested in the Chaos story after Ancient Evil. But you know, when they dropped Alpha and Omega or announced it, and it was going to be a Nuketown remaster, the community's like, we're sick of remasters, we want new content, all that stuff. I was like, I mean, yes, it is Blackout, but at the same time, like I had the bunker that was really sick. Nuketown was one of my favorite maps growing up as a kid, just being able to play through the challenge of it. So I didn't mind it. Togder Toten, I think I was a little bit sour on it, just being another remaster. And the way I personally felt though towards the end of the game, and then looking back on it now, is, and again, maybe it was never supposed to be like this. I know everyone's like, there was never supposed to be a great war or final boss fight, but like the Blood of the Dead, the Classified, and the Alpha Omega cutscene all kind of at least like built up and teased the idea that we were going to go back to the house and fight Monty or go to the Great War or whatever. Like I know, like, even if maybe that was never the plan, I just never really got the bait and switch there. And then with Togder Toten being the Victus crew, I thought it was pretty cool to see that, especially if you were a fan of the comics. Like it all kind of tied together very nicely. But yeah, I think just like the way things went down for the crew, like I felt like it wasn't a bad ending, but I'm not a fan. Like, I don't know, I just felt like they deserved like a big action-packed go out on top kind of ending to their story. And that's why I'm not like too upset to see that they may, and we'll talk about this later too, and we can talk about it now, honestly, might be potentially coming back next year. I know how you feel about that, but yeah, I just feel like it just felt really underwhelming to me. And honestly, again, like I still enjoy the gameplay of it, even though like the Pack-a-Punch system isn't my favorite. The point system was changed from the classics. Like double tap was through Pack-a-Punch, and then so was Speed Cola getting it all the way up. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I just feel like looking like now everyone's like, oh, it was the last good zombies game, and like
it's so funny seeing it get looped in now with like it's now like the whole like good era of zombies was pretty much World War to BO2. If you said anything beyond that, you were basically an idiot.
Yep.
And then BO3 got looped in with that. Then IW got looped in with that. Now BO4 gets looped in with that. It's like, okay, let's stop right here. We're because no one was saying BO4 was the best, like was the golden era of zombies. Nowhere close when that game was coming out, which I think is funny.
Yep.
Now, it's a different story when like, is it a game that people like? Yeah, there are people that like the game, but I think it is funny to say that, going back, no, guys, that was the year that Call of Duty had its last stand. No, it wasn't.
Right.
That was like the worst year ever to be a zombies fan.
I know, because it went from like the whole rumors of we're gonna get a year two season pass or whatever, where we get Ether and all these extra expansions, and it was gonna be like this heavily supported game, just to kind of go from that to absolutely nothing in the blink of an eye. Really hurt the community so much. But yeah, like the tweet and my stance on BO4 isn't really about the game, especially nowadays. Like it is a nice playthrough to go back and either casually play or do the Easter eggs. Like the quests are amazing. Like narratively, the game is amazing. The scale and the atmosphere is so much better than what we have right now. It's really just more to point out the hypocrisy of like the zombies cycle, where we're playing through a game, everybody gets upset, everyone hates it when we're in a down period, it's terrible, it's the worst thing ever. It's not like World at War, it's not like Black Ops 1, whatever. And then just like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years later, when we have that next down period in between games and people go back to play previous titles, that's when I feel like people start to be like, oh, this wasn't so bad, or hey, this is actually a really good game and I'm really enjoying this.
My theory on it is that like, and I understand this can go both ways, but I like to feel like that negativity on stuff can only go so far, because people who hate on stuff can only talk about it for so long. Yeah. Whereas like the fans of it will inevitably stick around with it and continue to talk about it.
Yep, absolutely.
But I think there are still absolutely a ton of people that think BO4 is like the second coming of the Antichrist, and that's like the game that ruined everything. Yep. But I think those people are sick of talking about it. Now they just talk about something else. But no, yeah, I totally agree with this notion that like it is weird to see it coming back around. I've been waiting for this day since 2018.
Since Voyage dropped.
Literally, a funny story about that. When I was playing Voyage, because I remember Shadows got a lot of pushback when it came out. So I said to myself, man, Voyage is going to be the next Shadows of Evil. This is the map that's really going to come out. And Dead of the Night was the map that came out on top. And I get bitter. And I get sad. Because why can't it be my map?
Dude, that's so funny.
I always think that's really funny.
I've always been rooting for Voyage of Despair. Dude, I love the idea of the Titanic. I thought it was like such a cool idea for a map. I mean, I'm a big map layout guy too, like gameplay, like run around, trade, or just like high round strat, stuff like that. And it wasn't what I thought it was. I feel like they stuck way too hard to the actual ship itself to make it exactly how it was in real life, which is totally fine. Like I'm not like I like Varrock, I like Shangri-La, I like Tight Corners map, but for like the average person that's playing, I could see where it's a very, very challenging map.
Yeah, like I think the biggest flaw that Voyage has is that like you can tell when it was being designed, it was like, look, it's zombies on the Titanic, and that was like what they put on the whiteboard, and then it's a Titanic map first and a zombies experience second.
Yep.
And I think that's what really hurts it, because when you actually play it, there's nothing to do. It's a massive play space, and all you can do is the Easter egg, some side quests. There's not even a challenge system, so there's just really nothing going on that like you can actively do. It literally is just kill zombies on the Titanic. That's the entire premise of the map, and I don't think it capitalizes on it very well. While also like, it doesn't understand how to tiptoe around I think it's tone death, which it's 100 years ago. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's like, it is a little insensitive to be like, yeah, what if there were undead people on the Titanic? Yeah, but people actually died, guys. So maybe this wasn't the smartest idea.
Right. No, I know you're a huge fan. I actually like the Easter egg for the map a lot, dude.
I love the Easter egg so much.
Shooting the planets down, I could see where it's annoying if you're playing on a PS4, but if you do that on a modern console or a PC, it's such a sick step.
I mean, BO4 in general is a game that like it doesn't run very well on its original hardware. Like, but when you play with more modern stuff, it plays really well.
Yeah, that was my biggest surprise going back to the game. Like, I played on a PS4. I didn't take a break from Call of Duty, but like I eventually got a PC, and then it went on sale on BattleNet, and I bought like the special edition. I went back, stretched the FOV out, max graphics, and I was like, holy shit, this game plays a lot differently on the PC. It feels a lot more like Black Ops 3, where I feel like on the PS4 and the Xbox, it was like, with the FOV limitations, everything just felt like really clunky with the HUD and stuff. But when you get that stretched out FOV, it just like, I don't know, it changed it for me.
The only thing I hate about BO4 on PC is that I can't stream it for some reason, because BO4 on PC just kills. Like, you need a recording PC and a streaming PC, or a gaming PC, streaming PC. Because for some reason, BO4 does not want to run doing both at the same time. It kills my PC every time, and it makes me so mad.
Dude, it makes no sense. OBS starts lagging, the stream starts lagging, it starts crashing.
OBS starts lagging.
I don't get it at all.
Winner's Whale pops off once, and my stream's like, yo, frame loss, frame loss.
Yep.
And I'm like, it makes me so mad.
What about the other? Okay, Chaos is incredibly underrated in my opinion. I think it just wasn't.
I love those guys.
Dude, it wasn't Ether, and everyone was like, but I want to know what happens at the end of the Ether storyline. You know, they just broke out of the cycle. What's gonna happen?
It conflicting with it was always going to be one of its like hardest like setbacks, is that now it has to compete with something that is actually liked. Like, people already know they like it, whereas with Chaos, especially now, if it came out nowadays, I think it would flounder even harder, because it's so hard to get people on board right now with something that they don't know if they like it or not. Like, I think my biggest example is you look at like Lilo and Stitch live action remake. That thing is made 3 times as much as the original. It's getting close to $1 billion, because people really want to see stuff that they know. Consumers are a lot more comfortable right now with stuff that's familiar to them, not taking risks, because stuff is so expensive. They don't want to take that risk and lose money. Even in 2018, that was a issue too, but not as big. I think a big issue with Chaos is it's like, if you're really interested in mythology, it's super interesting. But if you're not, it has a much harder, it needs to do a lot more to pull you in.
Right.
Like, what about you? Are you interested in mythology at all?
I really love Egyptian mythology. I studied it on my own in school. Like, I would just watch YouTube videos, go on Google, really get into it. I wasn't as big into like Greek mythology and some of the other cultures, which is why I'm not as big of a fan of like Ancient Evil. Like, I love Ancient, like I like it. Like, it's probably aside from Dead of the Night, probably the best map in the game in my opinion. But I didn't buy in. Like, if it was like the Library of Alexandria, if that ever got conceptualized with like maybe a pyramid too, that'd be my number one favorite map of all time. Easily.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I was a big Percy Jackson kid.
Okay, yeah,
And
exactly.
I read all those books, so it really made me want to get into like Greek and Roman mythology. I wanted to take classes on it. I read books on it, and when they did it for zombies, I was blown away because I love that stuff. I think the way that they married the ideas of original zombies with like alchemy and mythology was really cool. It was super unique. Like, I love the idea of the box being made of people, and it's like bones fusing together and turning into this like homunculus of like flesh and bone.
Yep.
And it was super cool.
Do you think?
But
Oh no, go ahead.
yeah.
Finish up.
No, that was not
Okay.
my thought. Yeah.
Do you think that they should have gone in a lot harder and embraced chaos in Black Ops 6? Because like they had the trust in chaos, little like blood spatter on Liberty. Have faith in chaos. Yeah. Like
It's also on Shattered Veil too.
is it actually?
Yeah, it's near Richtofen's room. It's inside one of the barricades. I recently saw it when walking through the map.
Dude, I mean, obviously, probably just brought it over from Liberty Falls to give it some obvious, but still, like,
Yeah, it's just a port, just to have something on the wall. But no, yeah, totally.
like they tiptoed around the idea so much, especially after like the Sentinel artifact being on one of the Temple Island on Terminus, and then being in the cutscene, going to find it, getting it in the tomb. It just seems like they were like, see, it's back, but like didn't want to fully take the risk, maybe, or didn't maybe like the voice acting strike could have affected some of it. But even then, like they still could have brought back some enemy types or some extra, little things here and there to bring back a little bit more chaos. But yeah, do you think they should have got in harder with it?
100%. I'm honestly a little. I'm gonna use a mean word here. I'm a little pissed off that they
Tell him, Stanley.
that they didn't do it, because I feel as a massive chaos fan, they got one map to rectify this, but I feel just a little bit baited. Because you've got Sentinel Artifact popping up. I know what that is. You've got mentions of Alistair Rhodes and Scarlet and Shaw, and I'm like, I know who those people are. We've got mentions of Perna Materia, and seemingly in Shattered Veil, I think we've figured out what the secret of the Nine is. But, and you've got like Josiah Shem, who's an Order member.
Right.
But they don't do anything with it, and
know.
it makes me so mad.
I know. Do you think there's still time for them to recover with this last map? Because everyone's like, I feel like it's been 3 maps now where everyone's like, oh, it'd be so cool if the Sentinel artifact was activated this map, or a Blight Father spawns as the main boss out of nowhere. Like, do you think that they could really just go all in here, and that's maybe why we're seeing a bigger gap? Or
They better. I'm not gonna be mad. I'm just gonna be upset.
Yeah.
Because I really want them to do it.
I know.
They've had this stupid mirror floating around in the player's inventory for like 3 maps now. And I just want to see what happens with it. I wanted to pop off. Also, the story inconsistencies have made me so upset. So at this point, just go balls to the walls. Have like Diego in Scarlet pop out of a portal with Bruno and Shaw.
Dude, yes.
And, have Blight Fathers rip Shaw in half. And, Peck, gets, touched by a catalyst zombie and becomes Super Peck. I don't care. Just do something with them, please.
Dude,
It's like I'm chomping at the bit for it. I'm so mad.
I find it really interesting that they kind of like introduced the concept back in Vanguard where Rhodes was name dropped on the radio, and everyone was like,
Yep.
oh, it's probably just a little like nod, like it probably means nothing or whatever. And then they really started to lean into it in the first couple of maps, but like never really fully fleshed out the ideas. Like I know from like a narrative perspective, it might be tough if you had the voice acting strikes and you couldn't get like maybe they didn't have the time or the ability to get some of the stuff recorded that they wanted to in order to kind of further the narrative that way. But like there's the intel system, which is super easy to kind of include things. You could absolutely, like they have the homunculus as a bundle, like not operator, but like emote or whatever. Like that's there too.
You've got basically Scarlet's skin 90%
Yes.
rendered in BO6
Yes.
in the modern engine.
Right.
Just her face needs to be added. And it's like, ugh, please. Because it worries me that someone at the writing team is just going, because there's a lot of junior writers, and what I've been told, Craig hasn't been working on the game.
Mm-hmm.
He's been dealing with personal matters.
Okay.
So, and this is, I can't confirm this, but that's what I've been told. And if it really is people who list, because you've also got the Cold War writer who worked on BO3, BO4, and Cold War. He's not there either. He works at DICE now. He works on Battlefield. So I think that's like you're missing a lot of those visionaries who know what they're doing with the source material, and they're not using it effectively. They're just using it as a device. Yeah. Like the Sentinel artifact could have been replaced with literally any MacGuffin that you could come up with. You could literally call it the Glorpo Blorpo, and it sucks souls out of the dark ether and gives them material form. They could literally be that.
Right.
So I want to like, if you're going to use the Sentinel artifact and you're going to use Perma Materia and you're going to use Cortifex and you're going to use dark ether entities, you need to find a way to marry all these ideas together and actually have a cohesive story. And you're not just taking something because it has a name value and then just using it without
shoving it in there,
being there. Because that it feels ham-fisted, it feels forced.
This is a little,
and that makes me upset.
This is a little off topic, like not really, but it is. I saw your tweet from like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, of the like Weaver drawings that were sketched into the wall on Terminus, and then ends up being sort of nothing. Like I saw the explanation for it where it was like another team is working on it and just like included it in there as Easter eggs. But like,
yes,
I remember speculating before launch about that, being like, dude, this is definitely like an Apothecon. This is definitely, you know, the Archon, all this stuff that just never materialized. Like, do you think that the writers are aware of that and are like trying to kind of combine everything into one, or is it just really a case of, hey, somebody included that in there, it made it through because it kind of makes sense, but they're not really touching on any of that?
Yes, I would really hope so, because I think where zombies is at its strongest, especially when we look at like the World at War BO1 days, is when they can like take a fan theory and then like do something cool with it. And like, you know, the whole thing with like Sam, they only added that, like they only added Samantha into zombies because people thought that the zombies were saying Sam when they spoke.
Right.
They read people saying that online. So that like gave them an idea to start working with that. And then, you know, we have Leroy being a servant of the Wolf King because people thought that was him in the painting. But now if you look at it, it really is obvious it's his wife.
Yeah.
It's the queen that's with him, not Leroy. But because of the interpretation of it, that got changed. And when zombies can do that, it's really cool because zombies is at its strongest when it's community driven with like developer feedback and both those going vice versa back and forth.
Right.
Where then it's developer driven with community feedback. We haven't seen that all year. We saw like one post about that. Sorry, you know, like they were like, yeah, we want to be more communicative and have a focus on fun. They made that one post, and Treyarch has barely addressed us since.
Right.
So that's
yeah, it is tough when they're like, oh, we're really gonna hone in on our feedback, and like they have given us a couple of paragraphs here and there, which I feel like has been kind of unlike them, especially, I mean, most of what I can remember, aside from like Jason addressing people in interviews or the community directly, like going to see JC, even Jimmy back in the day too. But it seems like they're kind of getting there, but I don't, you know, like I know Kevin Drew isn't the head developer of it. It's Corky, which I didn't know that guy even existed. Like I knew he existed, but I didn't know he was like the actual head until a few months ago, very recently. And it feels weird that they would send Kevin out there to be in front of everybody and basically get crucified by the community when anything goes wrong.
I know, literally sending him to die.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I talk.
There's nothing against Kevin. I don't think Kevin's a very like strong personality in that role either. I think he has a lot of growing to do if he wants to be in that role.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't want to be in that role and he's just being asked to go out there, then they're sending him to the wolves, basically.
Right. Because I mean, it was,
dude. People are mean online.
It's bad, dude, and it's not even like his fault for half of this. Because originally I was like, oh man, Kevin, like some of these design choices or whatever, and then I'm like, not directly like tweeting at him, but I'm just thinking in my mind like, man, he worked on Zetsubo, he worked on all these great maps in the past. Like you think we'd have a little bit more like hardcore gameplay mechanics and whatnot, but in reality, like it's not even his choice, but people online think it is.
Yeah, it's really easy to go with a manhunt like or witch hunt style of like crucifying people in trying to raise people up, but then also breaking them down when anything goes wrong. And it doesn't help too that like I see posts about this all the time from other COD developers. It takes a village to make a COD.
Yep.
And I think people don't really realize how many hands nowadays go through the franchise to the point where I think a lot of it can get muddled. And that causes a lot of like weird things to pop up and weird inconsistencies. And it's harder than ever to get a clear vision out. You know, I think easiest example is the Weaver stuff, where that Polish guy who did the CGs, they thought, oh, what if we made, you know, reference to WD-40, a group that Weaver might have been a part of.
Right.
And then it was referenced, and then the writing team who's across the world didn't know that they did that in the cutscene. So then it blew up in their faces because you have so many people making this stuff now.
Do you think that it's a possibility that, because like when Kevin talks in interviews, and Afterlife was talking about this the other day on a stream, that Kevin might have a more hardcore approach for the mode or a vision for the mode, and then Corky above him, like in his interviews, it seems like he's more about we want zombies to be accessible to everybody and has that kind of vision. So at the top of the designers, and then maybe even above him with like Activision or however the chain of command works, do you think somebody at the top is basically relaying to Corky, because I know he worked on some of the more hardcore maps as well, like, hey, we want this to be accessible for people to play multiplayer and Warzone. We want this to be a seamless transition between all three modes so that anybody who gets burnt out on multiplayer or Warzone doesn't go and switch to Marvel Rivals or another game. We want them to stay within the Call of Duty canopy. Do you think they're being like limited by Activision and the people at the very top, or do you think that it's actually just the people at the top of the Zombies team are the ones making the choices here? Just in your opinion, if that's I think it's not right, just completely opinionative.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes both ways. I think it's both sides. It might be a little bit of Activision, it might be a little bit of the team, because I also think that's what the team is more interested in right now. The team is very focused on fast core gameplay and integrating systems, and whether or not they might want to. I think that there is an interest, even Blundell's era when he was running it towards the end, there was an interest of trying to simplify things and figuring out a way to get players engaged in these more advanced systems without like causing too much headache. Because you have like BO4, which I'd say is the perfect like shitstorm of all these bad developer decisions coming to a head and them not properly figuring out how can we get players to engage with this sort of stuff.
Right.
Like Voyage of Despair is considered a really difficult map, and it's considered really confusing to get around. And people say there's so much stuff you have to do on it, and you literally press 4 buttons for Pack-a-Punch. Yeah. You press 1 button for Sentinel Artifact, and that's all you have to do on the map. Maybe 2 buttons for the water and the ship.
Yep.
But it looks so daunting and confusing because they wanted to make a hardcore experience, but they couldn't figure out a way to conducively help a normal person get through it and feel like it's something that's manageable.
Right.
It can feel so unmanageable and cumbersome the way that it's built. So I do think that there is this push from the developers too, with so much BO4 like feedback that they received, it's now causing them to slingshot in the other direction where it's like, okay, how can we make this as simple to understand as possible without like overburdening the player? And then they run into other issues, but that's a whole other topic.
Right.
So yeah, like I think when people talk about like they don't want the Pack-a-Punch markers, I think that that should be in the game because I think that's something that most people who don't play video games a whole lot, people who play Call of Duty, pick up a game once and they will play it once and they'll be like, I don't know what to do, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So I think that should just be toggleable. In the same way that like I think people don't give enough credit to how much like being able to toggle stuff in BO6 really helps that gameplay loop. Yep. Getting rid of the compass, getting rid of the mini map, getting rid of like the score feed and the medal feed. It's all still there if you want to use it. But for a normal player like us, or a hardcore player like us, we can just get rid of all of that. And in my opinion, I'd say the game feels super good because of that. I don't think people give that enough credit, how good those like little like UI systems really help the feel of the game.
Right. I went back and played Cold War, I think like a week or two ago to get some gameplay of the Cerberus. And I was like, dude, every 3 seconds, it's just shit in my face. Like literally blowing up the screen. I'm about to have like an aneurysm, like just sitting there playing it. Like you can barely even see the weapon or the zombies. Like there's just so much going on. And that's one of those things where like they really did listen to the feedback over the last few years of like, you need to at least have a toggle or dumb this down a little bit so there's not as much going on. And one thing I actually didn't know I really liked until I was able to take it away this year was the zombies health bar for the elites too. Like just being able to see like where the abomination is on total health or the amalgam is on total health is actually a little bit of a change that I liked. Same thing with the damage numbers. They're not like as in your face. Again, they're there if you want them. If you want to take them away, it's fine too. But yeah, that whole system with the HUD, I mean, I still think there's a little bit more they could do with it. I think it's better than what it even was before the game came out when they showed the initial HUD in the blog post. I'd really like to see them do some sort of map-specific HUD. I know it wasn't like that in BO3 aside from
I would
Shadows.
love to see that.
But dude, the run they had from Mob of the Dead to Origins, where they even let's even include Black Ops 3 as the launch there.
Mob from the Giant.
Yeah, the
like,
Giant Shadows.
Those like 5 maps where every map was the difference.
Yep. That's just like something small. And again, I don't develop game. I don't know anything about game development outside of just playing it, right? But I feel like that's something that could realistically be a small change that would really help the immersion in the map. Like they're doing the round change music now, which is nice. There is a pretty decent score for each of the maps to kind of give you that, little feel. But the individual map HUD is something that they should really consider doing for, I think, even next year. I don't think it's too late to start working on something like that. Just commission somebody or get somebody on the graphics design team to mock up some stuff for your 5-6 maps next year in Outbreak, and then let it fly.
I think that'd be great. Yeah. And I really hate to say it, but if they're so interested in using AI and like, it's going to pay me to say this, but if they really, really want to do it, then people even say, AI is going to help cut corners. Okay. Then, if that's really going to help, then cut that corner.
Right.
Or, because like, if that's the excuse, that's what it's going to be used for, then at least use it for that. If not, then hire somebody to actually do it.
Right.
Because I bet you there are a ton of artists that would love to go on there, give each map its own unique vibe and skin. And I totally agree. Also, real quick, I know you're talking about them doing round change music. They've been doing round change music since Mob of the Dead. Every map has unique round change music since then. Yep. Which I think is really cool. I hope they never get rid of that. I
know that's like a very small thing in the mode. Like, it's not like the average person is really going to appreciate that when they play through the maps 3 to 5 times in their entire life. But yeah, when they first introduced the round change music and the individual HUD, I was like, we're cooking here. Like, this is amazing. Like, it's beautiful. It's perfect. It's exactly what you want to really give each map its own individual feel outside of just like walking through the map and there being music. So that was Mob of the Dead 2, right? Wasn't that the first map where it was the environment music? Yeah. So those were small things that can really add to the map's ambiance.
Yes, and it adds to every single map. Like, if they made every single map have the same round change music, like, Exos, for example, it would get really boring. Yeah. And it or not boring, but it adds so much magic to each map. Like, I love loading in on every single map and having the round one just be so unique across every single iteration of the zombies. Like, that little motif of those 3 notes. Right. But it's like different for every environment that they load in on.
I was so nervous they were going to go away from it in D Machine. And then it was like, they brought it back or whatever. And I was like, I heard it for the first time, and the one that was like very similar to the OG one and just like very nerdy, but I was like, oh, perfect. Like, that's exactly
the Mauer one where like you hear the original with the woman singing it. It's so cool.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like the Chronicles remasters compared to their original counterparts, but I'm a huge sucker for graphics, for even Gobblegums.
Dude,
but the round change that they added in for those.
The round change, yes.
Perfect.
Totally agree.
Perfect.
Like, those little details are easily some of my favorites. That's the thing. It's funny that we talk about, like, we have so much infighting about gameplay and writing and all these issues, but dude, music team,
every year.
Kevin, Brian, Tori, Jack Wall, every year. Scott, every year, knocks it out of the park. Banger after banger after. Like, I don't think anyone that says that the music gets worse or the music peaked at a certain game, nah, you know what you're talking about. The music is just, it's never stopped being like zombies, in my opinion.
No, they've been the most consistent across the boards for
easily.
I don't know when they first started doing the music, but even with the Kevin, World at War, the Easter egg songs and the Black Ops 1.
Yeah, World at
really
War
great.
all the way back. I mean, like, even the Knocked radios, they basically asked, like the team, Brian was like, hey, I have all these like samples that I've done. You want me to add those? Like, Dusk and really like WTF.
Yep.
All those tracks on the radio are just really cool. Hold on, what's another one that I like? All Mixed Up, Revolution, Wildcard, WTF, Dusk, Twilight. That's another good one too. They're all just amazing.
Bangers, dude. I want to get your take on this one comment. I mean, maybe you've already answered it in chat before or when we've been talking.
Now go for it. It's for the podcast.
I like to ask everybody this, or I like to make this comparison because I feel like we're all just across in the world, doesn't matter what you're doing now, we're very like in the moment people. We want everything immediately. I know it's not ideal, but I really feel like Black Ops 6 is the Black Ops 1 of the modern era. We had World at War and then Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, and it wasn't until BO3, like it took all those games to develop a system and balancing and everything to give us an experience like Black Ops 3. I think Black Ops 4, again, I don't hate it, but I feel like just it really pushed it a little bit too far and made too many changes too quickly that the average person didn't like, whether it was the perk system, pack-a-punch system, gameplay mechanics, Easter eggs were too hard. I don't think they were, but yeah, for the average person. And then they reset with Cold War. I would equate Cold War as like the World at War to the modern era, where like everything was so bare bones, the mechanics were very basic. If you go back and play Cold War today, you just like, you can be like, okay, yeah, it kind of reminds you of BO6, but it's not really, even like from a core gameplay perspective, too similar outside of just having the salvage and the armor. Like those are all very rationed differently. And then with this game, like I feel like we've made strides from Cold War. It's not where I want to see it yet. It's not where the OG Zombies fans want to see it. Like nobody's really saying that this is the perfect game, but I really feel like next year we'll see another refinement and continuation of this year, maybe, you know, getting some better dialogue and Easter eggs in there, now that the strike is over and they're able to get people in for work. I don't think we're going to see like the peak of modern zombies until 2028, when that game is the 20th anniversary. That's when I think we could see some sort of potentially like Chronicles 2, you know, extra maps, a year 2 content for that. Do you agree with that statement, or no? Are you kind of just like they should, you know, every year they had 4 years dev time?
Oh, I'm always going to be on the side of, you know, of defending the developers. I'm sadly too much of a show like that. I give people the benefit of the doubt more than anything, which I don't know if that makes me more human or if that makes me naive. But going back to your question though about like, you know, BO6 being the BO1 to the modern era, I actually would agree with you on that. So the way that I break it down with zombies is that World at War is its own game. BO1 is a vertical evolution of World at War. It adds new mechanics, it adds features. BO2 is the same way. It adds more mechanics to it, you build on top of that. BO3 is the same way. Every game since World at War to BO3 builds on top of itself and has vertical integration. When you get to BO4, it's horizontal innovation. It moves away from the original vision. It's not adding things that are new, or it's adding things that are new, but not in a way that builds off the previous iteration. It tries its own thing, goes its own direction. Cold War is another horizontal innovation from BO4. It takes a lot of the pieces from BO3 that worked, a lot of pieces from BO4 that didn't work, and reworks a lot of stuff to make its own game that works. BO6 is 100% a vertical innovation from Cold War, and it builds on top of that game very well. Even if I don't think it adds too much that makes it unique, but I totally agree with you. You go back to like Cold War, the differences are minute, but they're very big changes. And it reminds me of like people hated armor plating and like having to re-up your armor plates. But I actually like the feature. I think it works a lot better than people give it any credit for. I think armor works a lot better in BO6 than it does in Cold War. I think moving armor onto a wall buy, it was a smarter system. I think condensing, like moving AATs out of the Pack-a-Punch and then putting AATs and rarity upgrades in one machine, and then moving wall buys out of the rarity, like out of the Ivan machine, and then making Pack-a-Punch its own thing. You've condensed 2 menus now into one.
Right.
And that was super smart. Now Pack-a-Punch is a button press. Armor's a button press too. And then rarity and AATs, that's one menu now that you look through. And I think that was a lot smarter. It's all those little minute changes that work really well. I think BO7 will just be another slightly more vertical innovation of Cold War and BO6. I think it'll be not till BO8 when we see them try something new again. I totally agree. Like 20th anniversary will be like that'll be the next time they like give the core gameplay a real big shakeup. Sorry, that was a lot.
No, that's what I want. So I'm actually surprised to hear you say that you would prefer the shield though, right? Like if you had to pick both.
So I guess I think it's in context because you can't really like BO6 buckled down and they said, okay, you want a shield mechanic? Here's an augment that makes a shield mechanic. Right. And you die so quickly.
Yeah.
That it's because of the way that the zombies move in BO6, the aggressiveness and the speed of the combat, you can't really have a shield anymore. So that's why I do think armor does work in the modern setting. And if they want to get rid of armor, they need to rework the game from the foundation and make zombies slower, make attacks slower, and figure out a way to make player-enemy interactions more engaging and more like they can make them chaotic just without overwhelming the player.
Right.
Because armor allows you to be overwhelmed, but also like have seconds of invulnerability. So if they want to put the shield back in, they need to completely rework how the game functions at a foundational level. Because what worked about in the old games is that you weren't getting attacked by 50 million different things. Maybe with BO4 you were, which is what necessitated stuff like specialists giving you armor. And that's what very clearly influenced them to be like, wait a second, what if we just give players armor all the time? I think having a Warzone integration was probably asked of them, but it was then Treyarch going, how can we work that into our gameplay flow? Well, we can always have players have armor. Let's make the zombies faster. Let's give them more ranged attacks. Let's give them abilities that they can upgrade that reduce the effectiveness of undead attacks, but increase your armor durability. And I think it's a lot more complex than just going, well, they just wanted to Warzone integrate. No, I don't think that's how that works at all. This stuff is difficult to design. Right. And I don't think that they would make a change without considering how it works at all levels.
So
again, that was a lot.
No.
But I look into all this like gameplay stuff so much because I think it's so much more than just them being like, make this the way we want
Absolutely.
it to be done. Just integrate Warzone into zombies.
I want to get your opinion on two more things here. The first one is loadout weapons. How do you feel about those? Again, next year it probably won't change because it's I feel like at this point, like asking for really big changes in the gameplay is going to be really hard for them to do, considering
it's redundant.
At this point it's not going to be till 2028. But like loadout weapons, how do you feel about them?
They're okay in the modern entries. I really, if I wanted to, I would just run a pistol, but even the pistols are kind of strong. I don't really think it's as easy as just loading in with like a GS45 or a Grakova or a Strider, because they've also made those really good now too.
Yeah.
So you can't just load in with that and like be like, oh, well, this is how modern, like classic zombies played. No, because the whole game, all your weapons have gotten power crept to the point where it's like, you can't just do that anymore. The game needs to be completely ripped out from the foundation if you want to get rid of loadout weapons. But I think they work fine in the modern entries. I think that like just having that flexibility is what they're going for, and all the gameplay systems feed into that.
Right.
So I don't think it's a bad thing, but if you want my personal opinion, just get rid of it and rework the game so that you don't need it.
Okay.
Because they put it in the game because they felt it was necessitated to have that.
Right.
And I don't think it's going away for a long time, but I think when they reach a point when they don't feel it's required anymore and they want to change the way gameplay works entirely, then they'll get rid of it.
I think a good way to solve this for at least maybe next year. Again, I really, as much as it sucks to be like, I want all these things to change now, I don't think that these really big changes can be made that quickly, especially when they've probably already been working on this game for a year, maybe. I think what they should do is have some sort of like loadout weapon locker where you can choose what weapon you want with all the attachments, but put it behind like 1,000 salvage or 1,200 salvage in like a separate, like, you know how they have the arsenal station for the ammo mods and the rarity upgrades? Like, have that somewhere on the map that or in the spawn room even, where you can just run up to it and be like, hey, if you really want to spawn in with a pistol and you want this to happen, like, you can just spawn in with a GS45, or maybe have like 4 or 5 designated starting weapons like you had in Black Ops 4, and then work your way to the loadout. So it's not completely gone for people that want to grind camos. It's not redundant to spin the box over and over and over and over again for weapons you might not see if you're trying to get the mastery camo, but kind of satisfy both fan bases, where it's like some people like, I don't really care about the loadout weapons. I feel like it's better for me if I'm trying to camo grind or if I'm just trying to boot up with a specific thing that I want. I know it kind of renders the mystery box a little bit useless. It's gotten a little bit better with the Mark II and the ray gun.
Yes.
What do you think about the loadout weapon locker? Like, just maybe? Yeah.
No, actually, I would totally agree with that. You want to talk about like them, like, you know, zombies being Warzone-ified. This is a feature that Warzone could act like, you could bring over from Warzone that actually would work and benefit zombies in an interesting way.
Yeah, you're 100%
like,
right.
Yeah, obviously, you know, if you get to around, 10, you load in with and then, you spawn in your loadout weapon. People will just do that every game. That's the new dominant strategy. But I think it provides options.
Right.
And that is definitely a much closer solution to fixing it than I think what they've been doing, just letting you spawn in with anything. And I still think with stuff like suppressors, it's too easy to earn salvage. So the game is like basically trying to tell you, you just upgrade your loadout weapon to the point where I think it's a beginner's trap to hit the box and upgrade multiple weapons, because the game BO6 is such an aggressive gameplay loop. You need to be upgrading one weapon at all times. And only in the late game can you kind of like pick a wonder weapon or another weapon to go with.
Right. The next gameplay mechanic I want to get your opinion on is, and I'm going to offer like a solution to it after this, is field upgrades.
Yeah. Oh, field upgrades. Field upgrades, specialist mechanic in general, have been so confusing with how they've been handled in every single entry of the series. BO3, you build them late into the game, and they are a overpowered additional wonder weapon that you can use at any time, and they're map specific. BO4 was, let's give you the wonder weapon on round 1, and you can use it whenever you want. You level it up, it comes with new abilities, and you can use it for however long you want, and it's super overpowered and basically required for the gameplay loop. Cold War was, hey, let's give you field upgrades that you have at all times, and they're completely busted. But the game is also busted with the undead move and attack use to the point where it's necessitated that you need them and that you want to use them. Like Ring of Fire was completely broken. Vanguard's the same deal, but you can upgrade it in game. So it starts out weaker, but gets stronger over time. MWZ just said, hey, here are your field upgrades. Pick the one that works best. And BO6 is finally, here are your field upgrades. They all have varying usefulness and abilities and like ways that you can use them. We're going to let you change it whenever you want in game so that you can use, it gives the player the control who's a good. That's where I think there's a lot of nuance in gameplay where it's like, I love watching speedruns where it's like, okay, we're going to use Frenzied Guard here. We're going to use Energy Mine here. We're going to use Aether Shroud here, Healing Aura here. It gives you a lot of autonomy, but not a lot of class setup or not a lot of like class choices where it's like, they all do just different things entirely. And you can just change it on the fly whenever you want. Where am I going with this? I think that field upgrades shouldn't probably be in the game. And I think that I think overall BO6's gameplay loop needs to be ripped up from the ground up. But because so many of the systems are redundant and like over the top with each other, where it's like the game really encourages you to use equipment, it encourages you to do field upgrades, it encourages you to use wonder weapons, traps, your main weapons, your wonder weapons. You use your perks that have offensive abilities, but everything topples over itself constantly, and a lot of it is just kind of redundant. I think you could remove specialist ability, like field upgrades, or if you're gonna keep them, get rid of other overpowered things and other tools that the player has in their arsenal, so that field upgrades stand out more.
Okay.
Because I think in their current state, they either come off as too redundant or too required.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've hit a good middle ground where it's too much of a get out of jail free card rather than an additional tool that the player has in their like tool set.
Would you consider things like the Gauntlet of Siegfried, the Apothecon Sword, the Ragnaroks, the Skull of Non-Sapway a field upgrade, technically?
They're the same thing, pretty much. I think those are closer to wonder weapons, like just temporary wonder weapons that you use in the same vein of BO4, but those come so much later into the game. No, I would say BO4 specialist weapons feel more like field upgrades because those are like made to be get out of jail free cards.
Okay.
Whereas BO3, they're just additional wonder weapons that you use. They have no like defensive abilities. They don't give you extra hits. They don't give you a shockwave that blows away zombies. They are just an additional weapon, and if you use it, you might go down because you're stuck in an animation while it's being used.
Okay.
Whereas BO4, I think those are a lot closer because I think the way that field upgrades work in their head, the developer's head, these are get out of jail free cards and they're wild cards in like the player's tool set, where it's like they all do different things. They all have the ability to save you in different scenarios. It's just up to you to figure out which one is the most applicable to the scenario that you need it for. I like that they increased the like kill requirement from Cold War to BO6, but I still think that they're still too easy to use, and I think that there's a way to rework them in a more interesting manner. I think that they're probably the best that we've had in a while. I still think World War II does it the best, but actually, I think in Treyarch's case, they've handled them pretty well. In World War II's case, they handled them really well as classes, and they all did such drastically different things. Whereas in BO4, which directly tries to emulate it, you have, in Chaos, you have the Staff of Rob, which is the medic ability, and then the other three are just your weapons. Like the Hammer, Chakrams, and Viper and Dragon. Those don't really cover different field classes. They all just kill things.
Right.
The Staff is the only one that does something different.
Okay.
So it's a lot of rambling, but basically I think that they should be changed.
Okay.
Some way, but you have to completely change the foundation of the game to do it.
Okay, let me offer an opinion for the change here. This is going to be kind of a rant too. I have like 3 different things. One, you can just get rid of them completely. Like I don't, they're okay. They're not my favorite. They are get out of jail free cards, especially when you end up just running Aether Shroud or Frenzied Guard, because those are the 2 metas for the most point if you're not camping with the Energy Mine. I think my 2 options would be, if you don't want to get rid of them completely and you want that mechanic to stay in the game, I would look to bring back legacy items like Black Ops 4 kind of did with the like Takio's Katana. Maybe you could do the Ragnaroks, the Apothecon Sword, like just to kind of get more of an in-depth zombies feeling, to make it feel like it's actually zombies rather than just some random mini, just ability or whatever that's there. Because the field upgrades just don't feel like zombies to me, honestly. But if they don't want to get rid of field upgrades at all, my best suggestion for it would be add in a map-specific side quest like BO3 had for all of them outside of Revelations, and have that replace the field upgrade once you pick it up. Like let's say you're running Aether Shroud, and then eventually you get the Apothecon Sword. It now replaces the it replaces Aether Shroud. You can go back to the menu and change the Aether Shroud if you want at any time, and then if you switch off of it, you can just go back and pick up the sword where you originally got it. Something like that, where it kind of adds a map-specific side quest that gives each map a little bit more of a feel. Like if you want to play with the sword, you have to go and you have to play Shadows of Evil. you can't carry that over to DE. So in this game, like let's say they added the Ragnaroks to Citadel Daymore, you couldn't go and use the Ragnaroks on Liberty Falls. It'd be whatever the field upgrade is for Liberty. And then to work them into the augment system, you could have like the minor augments for those specific field upgrades, like for the sword, be like longer duration, increased damage, or one other smaller one, but then the major augments do something crazy that makes them play completely different from the base version that you had.
So I think that's an interesting idea, especially getting them like midway into the game, they replace your field upgrade. I think the only way to do it though is you have to make them so blatantly overpowered that they would be worth it to switch out. Because I think of Citadel, where Citadel gives you all these really cool tools. You've got swords, incantations, mutant injector, chopper gunner, point of power circles, oil traps, and like one other thing I'm forgetting. Probably like another field upgrade. And your field upgrades. All of that is trying to combat with itself to be a powerful system. And at the end of the day, you have unique features like incantations, swords, point of power circles, and oil trap. They're all super overpowered and really good, and the map really wants you to use them and go out of your way to like figure them out and how to use them best. The problem is the mutant injector is simply too powerful.
Right.
And I think if you wanted to include like, map unique specialist weapons and field upgrades and whatnot, then you need to get rid of overpowered stuff that would overpower it. And you need to make exploration and figuring these things out just as important as the tools that the player has. Because right now, the tools that you have in BO6 are blatantly way too powerful. Nothing in the game competes to give you any advantage, to give you any semblance of like, this is a good time waster. To be like, let me go on my way to do the side quest to get this cool reward. Because the only reward that's worth it in this case is the golden armor.
Yep.
So I think if they want to do that, I think that suggestion is like, that's a really good suggestion that they should do that. They need to then figure out how to dampen the player's abilities to make that feel like it's worth it to go for. Like a good example of that are the Aether Crystals in Cold War, and then we brought down the power level and kind of split all the abilities into augments, but by doing so and taking that risk, they found a better way to balance like player-oriented tools in a way that feels fun to choose them without breaking the game open or giving you all of those Aether Crystal abilities as base power-ups and then giving like augments more abilities. It's too overpowered. It's too much to account for. You need to work backwards to go forward again, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. I think that's a very fair assessment of it all.
Yeah.
On the topic of augments, I'm just kind of like, I had like a whole little like couple of bullet points I wanted to touch on here, but at this point the conversations just flow. We're just gonna keep going. I keep writing more notes of stuff that I want to cover because I really value your opinion, man. Like I think that you're one of the most fair people in the community. Like when there's something that you don't like, you call it out. It's not just constant, oh, it's great, it's amazing, it's the best thing in the world. Like, and you offer like actual insightful opinions on them too, rather than just saying shit, garbage, or amazing.
Thank you.
With the augments, how do you feel about carry forward to BO7 for things like augments, gobblegums, field upgrades, perks, all that stuff?
I'm like 99% sure that when we load into BO7, it's literally just going to be the BO6 like menus, UIs, and systems. And it's going to be like, you have all your maps. There's just going to be like Transit 2.0 is the next map that you can play.
Okay.
I totally think there's going to carry forward everything. Because I think doing it the year after and having to reset and get everything, especially in zombies, I think zombies is always its best. It's best at like not forcing the player to like redo everything over and over. Actually, are they? Let me think about that. Because MWZ, right after Vanguard, literally told you, get everything again. And then BO6, after MWZ, told you, okay, you're going to unlock everything again. So maybe they will do that. I don't know. Because zombies is typically pretty good at not requiring players to go out of their way to re-unlock everything. But now that I really think about it, they do that every time. But usually there's a 3-year gap, so it doesn't feel as bad. This is like the first time we've had a year after year after year entry. So I think augments should come back. I don't think there's any reason for them not to. They seem pretty like well balanced and a lot of fun. Like I love strategizing with people and being like we're doing the stuff for Z4C right now. Yep. And I've been really liking strategizing with my team. Like, okay, we need to bring this. We need to bring this. Someone needs to run this augment. Someone needs to do this augment. Should we all run Group Shroud and Aether Shroud? Should we be running Extension instead? Should we be running Extra Charge? Like, all this stuff is really cool, and I like that that's in the game. I think it would be a bit weird to get rid of it or force players to re-unlock it.
Okay.
But the only issue is if you do that, I think augments were a really cool thing to go for when the game launched, and I don't know how they're going to replicate that in BO7.
So if I think the carry forward, like, are you okay with things carrying forward though? Like, are you okay with it? It's like perks?
Yeah,
all
sorry,
stuff.
that was the question. I am
No,
okay with that carrying forward.
I just want to get your thoughts on that because, like, I see a lot of people either against it or, I just think that carry forward in this situation specifically would eliminate a lot of the drip feeding that they're doing with the perks, augments, field upgrade, because they've already given us everything that we've had over the last few years. If they were to reset everything again and take away like 4 like, I don't want to see double tap in DLC 1, 2, or 3. Like, that shit should be in. Everything that they have in now should be like, in at launch next year.
I'm gonna lose my mind if I see Frost Blast come back again.
Right?
Because at that point they're just messing with us.
Yeah. No, it would be very odd to relock everything in a way. Like, I guess the way they could get around it is, like, let's say they bring back Prestige, they reset you to level 1. What would you think about putting like obviously you can still use all the perks, field upgrades, whatever, like within the first Prestige where you unlock the ability to use them, but let's say stuff like double tap or Ether Shroud or Dead Wire are like Prestige unlocks at a certain level or a certain Prestige. Is that too much grind? Or because I don't know, I've just floated that idea out before. Would you be okay with seeing like double tap at like Prestige 6 to incentivize you to Prestige and continue forward without it being too broken at launch where you have all of these different things like you can still use double tap, right? You can still pick it up in the machine or in the Wonder Fizz, but you wouldn't have the double damage, double fire rate augments, like major or minor augments, until you unlock it at Prestige 6 or Prestige Mat, whatever it might be.
Yeah. I'm not too sure yet. I think it would give things for people to unlock, but
what do you think it'd be like forcing the grind upon? Like, it would be like forcing, like not forcing, but kind of like, hey, we're basically asking you to grind the hell out of the game. Like, we want people to play the game, so we're gonna lock things behind like a grind wall so that it looks like, oh, people played the game for 8 hours or 12 hours to unlock double tap.
Yeah. I mean, that's what MWZ basically does. It forces you to grind to unlock all the missions. Like, that's the game's built just to, like, make sure you're wasting as much time as possible on it. I'm not too sure actually, because I think that was like in BO6, that was a special sauce that kept me playing for the first month. Was like, I really want to unlock all the augments. That was something that was super addictive to me. That's a tough question. I don't think they should. And if they're going to, maybe that they should carry forward the ones that you had. They just introduce new ones, that those are the ones that you unlock.
Okay.
So like maybe it's like another like 2 major minors for each ability, perk upgrade, and like field upgrade, AAT specials, whatever. Like, all that stuff should get 2 more for each tier. And maybe that's what you unlock. They're just like, they take a bit, like, if you never played BO6, you then unlock like the first 6.
Okay.
But then like if you start on BO7, you have all them unlocked, you can then just like, you get an additional track that is just the 4 new ones. But they take much more XP to unlock. So maybe that could be like the grind.
Okay, I like that idea. That's a pretty fair balance.
Yeah. Just adding more and giving players more options. Maybe it might be too much, but I think that you could do 5 and that wouldn't be too overwhelming. Right. Especially if like people spend a full year working with the first 3.
Do you think
so? They already have a handle on them. Yeah.
Do you think that adding, let's say carry forward does exist, everything carries forward in terms of the everything, period. Like, maybe you just own Black Ops 6, everything carries forward, including the maps, like everything. Do you think that by the end of the game, like 20 perks is going to be too much? Or do you think that it'll just, like, the way I'm seeing this is if everything carries over, we get a new perk every single season of next game and we end up with like 18 to 20. The setup to get, like, let's say mule kicks in there, 2 weapons and a wonder weapon, all of your perks, your armor, everything set up is going to take like 50 rounds. In my estimation, like right now it's about 30 rounds if you're just completely setting up a melee, everything. Yep. Yeah. I mean, that, like, the high rounds aren't really about 100 anymore. It's about like 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 999. Like, that's kind of where you're at.
As the game gets faster and you add more mechanics, like it's too easy to go for that. Yeah.
Right.
They've changed it so much.
So do you think it's fine knowing that, or do you still think like maybe 20, 21 perks might be a little bit too much?
I don't think they're going to do 20 perks. Treyarch likes to lowball stuff a lot more than we give them credit for with that kind of stuff, where like they know I think ever since BO4, that was the one time they got burned adding like 8 new perks, or 10 new perks, sorry. And they were like, we're not doing that again. So I think they play it a lot more safe nowadays, where it's like, okay, let's just add in, I think they're going to add in 4 new ones. That's it. It'll just be like, there's going to be no new ones at launch, knowing them. And then it's just like maybe there might be a reiteration of how you do perks in BO7. They might change the mechanic of it, but I don't think they're adding any new ones. I think they're just going to carry over the 12 that we have. Is it 12?
I think it'll be 12 after the last DLC.
Yeah, whatever next perk coming out will probably be the last one. Probably Mule Kick. And then I can see them adding in like Bandolier, Tombstone, Winter's Wail, and then like one other wild perk. Let's just say like Blood Wolf Bite, and that's like they're like 16. That's where they're gonna stop. They're like, okay, this is too much. That's our hard cap. I don't see them adding anything more than 16. I think past that is like, that's where you get into custom map territory.
Yeah.
And personally, I loathe it. I know people love it. People love seeing 50 different perk abilities pop off. But I think Treyarch is so adverse to that. There must be some like hidden rule there, or unsaid rule, where they're like, make sure we're not overloading the players, like how many abilities the player uses at one time. Because I think that like 11, like 10, 11 is where they got comfortable forever. That's their unwritten rule. You can't have anything more than that.
Yeah.
BO1 capped out at 8 perks. BO2 capped out at 9 perks. BO3 capped out at 9 perks. 9? I think 9, 8 or 9 perks. BO4 also capped out at 10 perks. They wouldn't go anywhere beyond that. Yeah. Cold War capped out at 10 perks. Cold War, I think, is going to end up with the most at 12. Or Cold War, BO6 will end up the most at 12. So I'll be shocked if BO7, they then add like more, because that's like well past their comfort zone with what they want to do.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting. I think they're either going to pull out the 16, like that's going to be like the first time they're going to do it, or they're going to be like, okay, let's just do something different. Because in BO3, during that game's DLC, they were like, okay, let's add hats. Let's add different abilities.
Yeah.
Let's add different ways so we're not giving players more perks. We're just giving them new things that aren't perks.
I didn't think about that, but I'd love to see like the helmets come back. Those were such a sick gameplay mechanic. And they
helmets were such a cool, like it was unique.
Yes, dude.
It was cool. It gave those maps cool side Easter eggs. Like, yeah, that's an easy way to solve the perk problem. Is just do other things that aren't perks.
Right. No, that's
like I think of the Mega Stuffy on Terminus, or like the Wolf, the Hellhound like summon that you can do on MWZ, or like the Merc summon on MWZ. Those are cool things. So then if they're struggling to figure out how to add more abilities without adding more perks, then just add new things. Add a dog companion, add a like AI that shoots around with you that you can like tell it to stop shooting at certain times. You can tell it to Easter egg hunt with you. You can tell it to hold the zombie.
Yep.
And I think that's getting a bit too far out there with what they'd be willing to do. But like stuff like that is like, I feel like I understand Treyarch's like where they hold lines on stuff. So I think perks is where I'm actually not optimistic they're going to add more. I think they picked 12 that they really like, because for the past 6 years now, they seemingly are really comfortable with the core set that they've picked, and they don't like to deviate much from that.
All right. What's one that you want to see come back that hasn't come back yet in the modern era?
Bandolier.
Okay,
Bandolier,
fair.
Winter's Wail.
Fair.
Winter's Wail too.
What about
I don't even need Winter's Wail to be broken. I need a toggleable Winter's Wail where it's like if I'm doing an Easter egg step, I toggle a setting in my game and it just freezes the zombie so I can go do a puzzle. Because ever since like BO4, it's like crack. I need it to come back because I want to freeze the zombie. Like if I'm playing Cold War, I want to do something.
Yep.
But a zombie is slapping me and I just want it to go away, but I don't want to end the round. It ticks me off.
What do you think about a reworked Widow's Wine with the with the Winter's Wail in it? Because like I actually think Winter's Wail is better than Widow's Wine, but I feel like the quote unquote like aura or the brand recognition that comes with Widow's Wine would get people as like not as hyped as Double Tap, but like on the similar level of like more people are going to be familiar with Widow's Wine than they would Winter's Wail.
Yeah, I mean, MWZ, they were even planning on adding Winter's Wine. They just didn't. So, no, I totally think they should. That's the perfect way to merge the two worlds where it's like, yeah, you just bring back Widow's Wine. It's like the same way they brought back Tombstone, but it was more Who's Who than Tombstone. They just gave that coat of paint in Cold War. So, yeah, I think they could totally do that. Just bring back Widow's Wine, but just give it the Winter's Wail abilities. Maybe do two cool things that are closer to Widow's Wine and call it a day.
Do you think, I know you said there probably won't be one at launch, but what do you think about Tombstone? Because it's going to be transit, it'd actually be like useful on a bigger map.
That would, honestly, they've said before they've struggled to balance it and implement it properly. They've been super unhappy with it, and I'm kind of with them. I think in Cold War, it was probably the best balance. MWZ, it was just broken.
Well, you didn't like booting back in after you die and getting infinite wonder weapon schematics and points, and
that was really fun. I mean, honestly, I think the players took better advantage of it than the devs ever did in MWZ. I thought that stuff was actually kind of cool, where it's like it gave this like MWZ is such an anomaly. The more I think back on it, the more I'm like, wow, this game really does just do so much weird stuff that zombies would never do.
Yep.
Like you can drop weapons, you can drop points. You can carry up to like 16 Gersh devices in sets of 2. You can you have to like exfil with schematics. It does so many weird things that I do think would actually really benefit zombies. Something I think about a lot is like the way that you earn schematics was like a super low chance in the challenge system, or like whenever you did like a rift. I think you could totally add that to zombies. Find something really like minute that could be permanently found every time you complete a SAM trial. That would get like every time you complete an Easter egg.
Yeah.
That gives like so much replayability. Cosmetics give you like a 5% chance for a cosmetic every time you beat like Terminus. And then if you beat it again, it's 6%, 7%, 8%, up to like 25%. And then it caps out at 100. Like it goes straight to 100 next time you complete it. Like stuff like that. Like I think, sorry, I'm getting so off tangent.
no,
now,
this
so
is
off
perfect.
track.
This is perfect.
But like, yeah, Easter egg stuff. We talk about it, community talks about it, giving players reasons to redo the Easter egg, giving like Easter egg streaks, giving like cool rewards. You beat the Easter egg 5 times, you unlock the Maya skin. Beat the Easter egg, like, you know, without any perks. Every map should have like 15 different things, like World War II, where like these super absurd challenges. It's really funny. World War II has it, and World War II is the one game I don't want to do these challenges on because so many of them aren't solo friendly.
Yeah.
Whereas like BO6, if it was like, you know, beat the tomb without any, you know, with only like, you know, tier 1 armor and no perks, I would go for that weeks on end until I get it. And like, you know, it rewards you with like, you know, a cool like custom thing. Like, you know, like those Dark Ops cards are really cool that they just recently did. You know, beat the Guardian with only melee, melee the Z-Rex to death. Stuff like that was super cool.
I think that's a great like way to go about the Easter egg rewards, rather than it just be like, oh, you know, 1 completion, you get a character skin, some gums, and whatever, and then 5 completions, you get a Pack-a-Punch camo, 10, another one, 15, another one, 20.
So you unlock the Pack-a-Punch camo permanently.
Yeah, like I think that like the specific challenges per map would actually be really cool, and I mean, you could add those in as Dark Ops, because I mean, with the recent one, we were hunting for a week for it, and nobody had any idea what to do. It'd be cool to see that same thing with like, okay, how many, like let's say they just say, hey, there's 5 different ways to complete this Easter egg challenge-wise, and you'll get rewards based on, you know, beating them. Good luck, have fun hunting, but there's 5 of them, so you know, like there's not going to be like this, oh, are there more, and we're hunting for 2-3 weeks at a time. It's just, hey, go find the 5 different ways to beat the Easter egg. But I think that offers a really good alternative to just beating it once or beating it 5, 10, 20 times over.
I mean, like, you know, we talk about like, you know, like Activision wanting like, you know, gameplay time to go up. Okay, then guys, you know, here's a way that, you know, sells it for both of us. Just, you know, super easy. You unlock the Pack-a-Punch camo after you beat it 5 times. You know what? You guys are happy. People are playing your things more that you like clearly don't want them to do because it costs a lot of money to do Easter eggs and a lot of development time. But like, it also makes people happy because they have stuff to go for.
Right.
Like this is like, I think this is like super basic, like game design, in my opinion.
Absolutely, dude.
Where it's like, if you want, like, it satisfies both parties. And it's like, why is this not the first thing they think of? And I know why. This stuff is super difficult. I'm not gonna. Let me get off my own high horse real quick. This stuff is so difficult to do. But, you know, if I'm going to, you know, attack Activision for anything, and, you know, if they're going to complain, because I know for a fact they loathe how much, like, it costs them to do the Easter eggs and zombies. But I know for a fact if they could, and if they could get everyone to play multiplayer Warzone, no one would play zombies, they would cut zombies as soon as they could.
Absolutely.
But they know that there are people like us, and people like me specifically, who only play zombies, and I buy a COD every year because of zombies. And they can't get me to change. So that, I know that pisses them off more than anything.
I think they should be looking to change the other people more. And I know that's what they've kind of done with the modern era.
Yeah.
But to your point about the Easter egg unlocks, especially the camos after 5 completions, camos are one thing that people will go for in other modes. Warzone and multiplayer, especially in Warzone and multiplayer, people will salivate for reactive camos that they can use on their weapons. It doesn't matter if it's an event reward, a mastery camo, a zombies camo, whatever. And this actually, there's proof for this. I know that Activision's probably like, well, we don't want to, you know, spend all this money developing Easter eggs and it takes all, you know, a ton of dev time, blah, 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 whatever. Like, they I know, and they're probably using like the 2% of people complete this as the excuse as why they're not doing those extra rewards or beefing those up or giving us more in-depth side Easter eggs, or that they load that stuff. But the best example of this is the Bone Collector skin from MWZ. I play a shit ton of Warzone and I play a shit ton of multiplayer, and I saw so many people running the Bone Collector skin in MW's or in Modern Warfare, Warzone, Resurgence, and in the multiplayer for MW3. And that took like infinitely longer to unlock than doing an Easter egg 5 times, than doing the Terminus Easter egg 5 times over. That was like a 30-hour grind for the average, probably 40-hour grind for the average person.
It was such a long grind.
Absolutely. And
people wait for it.
Absolutely, dude. And people from multiplayer and Warzone will go for it if the reward is good enough. And I think that those camos are perfect.
Yeah. The amount of people that went nuts for the Unstable Rift, not because it was good content, that was some of the worst we'd ever received, but because there was a camo in it, there were unprecedented numbers of people being like, how do we do the Unstable Rift, guys? Yep. Like, it's the same thing with Echo Entity, or just regular, like, Entity, like, the Act 4, like, Act 6 mission. People went nuts over that because there was a cool blueprint that you could get in it. Yep. So people were, like, going nuts wanting it. And this is, like, where I'm getting mad. I'm getting so heated where it's like, guys, this is right in your faces. Like, I get, they probably hate zombie numbers sometimes, but it's like, if you guys really want those people to come over, this is the solution. Like, during the BO6 year, people have been going nuts over there being no event camos in, like, the weekly events. Okay, so then just, clearly people want camos. If you throw them in zombies, I think you could get a ton of people to go nuts over a modern zombies entry.
Dude, especially next year when you have something like the hype of a I know it's not probably going to be like Green Run Transit, but like a Transit reimagining.
Similar.
Dude, if they have the bus and it's Ted, because I mean, he was on the Weaver skin. Like, I think that he's just banished to the Dark Ether. I think that possibility is out there that even if it's not Green Run, that Ted could be driving the bus. Just pure speculation, nothing else about that. Dude,
he probably is.
Dude, the amount of people that are going to be like, oh my God, Ted's back, I'm going to play zombies, or like capitalize on the hype, and to get people even, dude, I'm sure if you added in the like the pack 1, 2, and 3 camos as like a 5 times completion Easter egg reward next year, and it was rotating like how the MW3 ones were kind of like towards the end of the year. I think the super mastery for the XP for 1,000,000 XP was the Gorod Grovey Pack-a-Punch camo, or very similar, but it was like rotating all 4 of them at once. That's cool. Dude.
Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, I do know that. Yep.
People, I can guarantee you'd have people like Tim the Tap Man or whoever like these big casual Warzone streamers are being like,
they would play.
I'm gonna go play it's Transit Remastered, it's Transit 2.0, Ted's back. I want this camo. Like, this is the opportunity to go all in with it.
Imagine if you play it and like, you have the opportunity to customize Ted, but also like other way around. If you do a certain amount of times, you can just be Ted skin.
That would be sick.
The zombies reward is a Ted skin.
Yes, you beat it like 20 times, you get 10
not
up.
The BO4 one, but like, we need like a really like super in-depth one that like looks like Ted. You get all the unique voice lines for it. People would go nuts over that.
Absolutely.
So many people are like, yo, dude, I love that funny bus driver from Transit.
Yep.
And it's like, Activision executives, the people who give Bobby Kotick $50 million after, he, sexually harasses, allows harassment at his workplace, gives him a $50 million leave package bonus. Guys, let's use our development brains a little bit. Let's use our money brains. Don't you guys want people to play the games more? Like, I know I want to. I know you guys want to. Let's use our brains a little here.
I think they just need the right people in the rooms, kind of giving the feedback and calling the shots. Like, and I've gone over this a multitude of times before, but like the whole grief playtest, like I understand for COD Next, if you want to have 95% of the people in the room be Warzone and multiplayer, because that's
we'll go with that. The COD Next,
like that's
like you got just Noah and Dalek, right? That was it.
I can at least kind of understand it from like a marketing perspective. Like, you want Warzone and multiplayer people in the room for that, because that's where you're showcasing Area 99, you're showcasing the new multiplayer. Again, Liberty Falls was a pretty big deal. There should have been way more zombies people in the room there. But the grief playtest specifically, like not having anybody that, there were other zombies creators there that do make zombies content. It's not like it was just like completely a bunch of randoms. There were a few people there that, do make the content. But if there's a zombies only event, 20 out of the 20 seats should be filled by zombies specific creators that can actually provide you with decent feedback. And that's where like this is the same case. Like, if they have a playtest for Transit or it's at COD Next, there should be like 15, 20 people out there this year that can sit down and be like, listen, aside from the gameplay, these rewards, this is how you would do, like, and I'm sure they're probably aware of this because I know the devs are on Twitter. I know the devs are watching YouTube videos. Like they hear the feedback and stuff, but like,
yeah, how
do you get in the room with the Activision execs or somebody to just pick and represent and get in there and be like, this would make you a shit ton of money and this is what would actually improve the numbers significantly if you would just go all in on these certain rewards. Like you said, the TED skin was a genius idea. The rotating Pack-a-Punch camo or like the Pack-a-Punch camos themselves. Great idea to get people involved.
We want to talk about like, like a bit like, double standards where it's like, Zombies had one really bad year where the YouTubers kind of like pushed back and gave a lot of feedback, both good and bad for BO4. And that kind of got a lot of them blacklisted. Yep. How come like, you can have like all the MP YouTubers shit on the game year after year constantly, and they get to come back every year. But like the Zombies guys, we get one bad year.
Yep.
And then that's it. Zombies is like dead forever. We don't get invited back ever to events unless it's like, the top guys, which again, I'm glad that those guys are going. That's not anything against them. It's like, but like as a community, there are a ton of people that should be getting invited to this stuff. That like, if you want to show that you're in tune with the community and that you're paying attention to who's like up and coming, that's the way to do it.
Right.
So it ticks me off a little.
Okay, I got two final like little bullet points here I want to go over before we get into, we have like a community corner where we take a couple of questions from the previous episode for you. The first one is the modern zombies narrative. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. I just want to know, like, let's just assume, okay, like, and again, it's a leak, take it with a grain of salt. Primis does come back next year. I know is there any salvageable way that you can think of that you would not be upset seeing them come back? Like, is there any way, if they tie in more chaos to it, or like, let's say they go all in with like, chaos storyline, Vanguard storyline, Ether storyline, everything is like now just a big, like, you're in the dark ether, everything is there. Like, is there any way that you could get excited about Primis coming back? I had to ask you. This is the toughest question I had to ask you today.
It is. I gotta think about that. Okay. I mean, there's no good way to do it without, me wanting to blow my brains out. So best way to think about it is if they're going to go for it, just go for it and make it fun, make it funny, give it some heart, and don't stop committing halfway. If you're going to do it, commit to it all the way.
Yeah.
I feel like with Richtofen and the way that he's voiced in Shattered Veil and like Grief, that's a lot closer to what I would want, where he's like, and they're committing to a lot of his voice lines. They're committing to a lot of like, funny little fourth wall breaks and Grief and things that are like, and he has easily the best lines on both maps, on like absolutely. Both Shattered Veil and Grief. So I think they can write them really well. I think they just need to fully commit to it. They can't drop out halfway. They can't get scared. They can't be like, well, we have to give them operator lines. No, if you're gonna introduce the Primis Crew, you're gonna introduce Richtofen, Nikolai, Dempsey, Takio, you need to be guns blazing. You can't have them share it with Weaver and the gang. That this needs to be their own game. You can't have Chaos Crew coming in. I can't have Scarlet Rhodes, as much as I love them to death, taking away screen time from Takio learning that he's a copy of another guy from another universe and that his life means nothing and he has to find purpose in this new world. This cannot be taken away from anything. You need to laser focus in on it and actually develop a good story. Because if you can do that, everyone will forget about what's happening in Cold War and BO6. No one's going to care about plot inconsistencies with the Sentinel artifact on the tomb. If you can write a good story and you can just tell a story that is engaging and funny and heart-wrenching, then people will be on board. But I need to see them feel like that they care about it. Okay. Last
follow-up question here for the narrative. What do you...
Sorry, I'm getting so heated right now.
I love it, dude. I love it. We're engaged in the conversation. Like I said, I respect your opinion more than a lot of people. Like you're dialed into the community here. How do you think if they do come back, they're going to handle Takio's character? Do you think that they go for a recast sign? Because I genuinely think that Tom Kane cares the most about his character out of any of the other. That's not a slight to Nolan North, Ted, or who's Dempsey's guy, Steve. Like it's not a slight to them at all, but it just seems like that he was like very into Takio's growth and maturation over the years. Do you think that they recast him? Do you think that they sign, like they pull like a James Earl Jones thing where they give like he is like, I'm okay with you guys replicating my voice using AI to let the character live on? Do you think they write him out and they just bring in like Pablo or Scarlet or somebody else, keep Weaver, somebody from the storyline to kind of keep that, and they just like give it like Takio a nod when he comes back of like him sitting under a cherry blossom tree living his best life?
That's not
like,
a bad idea.
what do you, how would you like to, if you were in charge, how would you handle it? Or how do you think that'll be handled?
Yeah, I feel like there's two routes. Either you just make a quiet nod to him in the same way of like George Romero on Tog, or I'd say you just recast him. I feel like as a voice actor, I think Tom Kane would rather someone else be given the opportunity to voice him. I think the most important part is like, can the character's soul and integrity be maintained?
Yeah.
Because I think he knows that he can't voice the character anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that like, especially like as a voice actor, it would be terrible if that role was taken away from someone who could voice him well and give him like a new like voice. I mean, the best thing about him is that unlike Richtofen and Samantha, you could basically start Takio back at like step one of his character and have a new voice actor give him like a new voice and like energy that hasn't been brought to the table with him yet.
Right.
That's where I think that you could do that. And that's where I think it would be the best way to do it without like making it muddled.
Yeah. No, I got you.
But yeah, about the Primis Crew in general, I think I would just do something cool with them, guys. Don't just give me like, Nolan North doing a Richtofen impression for 20 minutes in a booth, and then it just feels like the writing is not there.
Yeah.
So
no, it's gonna be really interesting. I personally I like Chaos. I like the modern crew that we have now. I do think that the voice acting strike really kind of put a damper on maybe how many voice lines they were able to have, like that they weren't maybe able to go into as much depth they would have liked. I don't know that, but that's just kind of what I feel like, especially considering how Terminus was handled versus like something like the Tomb and even moving forward. But I think that COD Zombies, and this isn't really like a narrative fault, but it never really reaches it never will reach a peak again unless these characters are involved somehow, because there are so many people that were invested in the game mode because of the characters, because of Primis and Ultimus, that even with the new stuff, they just like, for whatever like mental block, they can't give it a chance. But with those characters back, if they're written well and it's not just like, holy shit, this is COD Mobile, like I think that it'll be
the COD Mobile stuff. Yeah.
I think that, I don't know. As long as they write them well, like you said, like I think that it'll be well received by the majority of people. Some people are going to be upset with it no matter what and probably write it off and not, give it the time of day at all. But yeah, I just feel like for the average casual person out there that, grew up on the game mode, I think that especially I'm just like taking my IRL buddies as an example, like for how I base like the quote unquote casual fan, people that grew up on the game that don't play it very much anymore, don't really pay as much attention to the story. I feel like, and I've talked to them, that they would be more interested in the story and more interested in zombies and in general with those characters back versus what they just feel. Even the new character, they're just like, they're operators or whatever, even though that's not really the case. But yeah, I feel like it's just, they're so tied to the mode and they're so interwoven to the mode itself. And I would love for them to get this game and maybe however long they want to continue this new story of them being back for, this game, next game, however many years it's going to be. I would love for them to get the opportunity to go out in like a Great War style map or a Great War style boss fight. I know, like, even if it's not with these characters, like just conceptually seeing it at some point, even if it doesn't change the narrative at all whatsoever from the original timeline, just to like have that, I think it would be such a sick map to see. Do you think it'd be cool to have that? No narrative change at all, think like just to see it on screen, play through it.
I mean, just see it on screen. You know what? Sure. Again, like I really don't care how they bring back this stuff. I think I'm a little less in like engaged in the whole like bring him back and it would ruin the story. If you're gonna do something, just do something cool with it. Yeah. Do something that's interesting with it and make it fun. Those are my key tenets on like what I want in a, like, if you're ever gonna bring them back. Backtracking something you just said, that was like something I wanted to comment on.
What do you think about, let's say, the 20th year here? Again, this is just so off script at this point, but what do you think if they were to do the 20th year of Zombies? They have some sort of like Chronicles 2 kind of thing. Maybe that's why they're testing some of these like assets like the VR11 and MWZ, the ice staff, the jet gun, Vulture Aid, stuff like that. If they were, do you think that that's a possibility and that's what they might be doing right now? And if they do go down that route, how would you feel about seeing maps from the original Ether timeline that don't change the narrative and the outcome at all, but it's like with characters like Maxis or Gersh or Yuri where you play through like maybe events that happened that we didn't actually get to see.
So basically classified, but if it was just with like other characters and other events and zombies.
Right. Even if it's not
and, like, you know, you could call back to like completely random points in the stories. Like, you know, like this map takes place between like Call of the Dead and Shangri-La. And this is like a map we'd never seen before. And it just had like new content.
Right. It's kind of like how realm. Star Wars has done like Rogue One or Andor, where they like fit in the timeline, but they don't really change the overarching. Like Kenobi's not a good example. Like, yeah, like they just fit in the story, but you're playing as like Max and stuff like that.
I'm not sure how I would actually like that. So something interesting I thought all about Zombies recently is that Zombies has had an insanely linear storyline. Like the more you think about it, where it's like World at War to all the way up to, I think the end of BO3 is one timeline. Then World at War up to Zetsubo, and then Blood of the Dead onward to Tog. That's like, it's still part of the same timeline. It's like, that's part of the cycle. And then you get to Cold War. That's a continuation of, you know, you have the original cycle, the broken cycle, then the Cold War. So then you have all the way up from, you can start with Vanguard, Cold War, BO6, and then MWZ. It's surprisingly all linear in a way that it's been like presented, despite all the time travel and jumping around and moving around. So I think I would be interested to see how they handle that. Because like, imagine if they did Classified now, where it's like, you know, it recontextualizes the events of Moon, it recontextualizes the events of Blood of the Dead and Alpha Omega, but like if it was never there originally.
Right.
And it was only then adding context to those events now. I wonder how I would react to that. Because we're so far removed from that. We're like, what helped Classified is that even if it was in between Shangri-La and Moon, and it was like being presented as like the story you never saw in between those maps.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's relevant now because it's relevant coming up to Alpha Omega.
Yeah.
And Blood of the Dead. That's why it's in BO4, not because they wanted to do a mid-quel map, but they thought it was cool that they could tie it in a cool timeline way into the new stuff.
Right.
So I think I would be interested in seeing how they handle that. I think it would be like, I wonder what they would do and like what stories they would choose to tell. And if they did, I think they could literally just sell Zombies maps as like, here's the unique one-off. We're not connecting it to anything. We just thought this would be a cool idea. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, we're not going anywhere with it. So yeah, I think I would like that. I think they have to I think then they would have to commit to not going anywhere with it, funny enough. Because you look at like Mob of the Dead. Mob of the Dead was originally a map where they went, at least it seemingly was supposed to go nowhere. It was a one-off. And then that got a lot of people on board because they could get on board with it because it had nothing connected to it. But then you have Blood of the Dead, which is like, oh, actually, Mob of the Dead is the most important map in all of Zombies.
Right.
And that actually drew away a lot of people who were like, well, now I don't care anymore because you've just ruined the one thing that was cool about Mob.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think it'd be cool.
Okay.
They could do that. Yeah, like a Sam map. Yeah, like she's like, you know, ordering Yuri around and Gersh and, Cornelius Purnell from Alpha Omega.
Okay, this kind of ties.
Yeah, like oddball stuff like that would be cool. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yep, if they kind of were to do something like that, or let's say they do, in fact, do some sort of like Chronicles 2 for the 20th year, where they're like, okay, this is going to be it's bullshit, but like 2-3 years support for, we're going to add in maps every season for the next few years. They're going to be remasters. Do you think because, and I don't know how to phrase this question, but with Vanguard Shino Numa, in my opinion, it was like the best version of Shino. With the modern gameplay mechanics and stuff, like, would you be interested in seeing like Keynote or Toten come back with a small added area, maybe to kind of open up things like how Shino Numa had, but then have a quest that again doesn't change, sort of like Duris to Classified. Let's use that as an example, where it's like you get an older map back, but there's like a quest associated with it now. There's a buildable wonder weapon, but it doesn't. It fits into the timeline essentially. So like Varrock, like you're playing as the 4 soldiers that arrive. And your whole quest is to basically advance the story to Shino Numa.
Okay, so like it advances it, but it also has like modern mechanics. Like it has Pack-a-Punch in it, it has Gobblegum in it.
Right,
Has,
it's like
small side quests.
Yep.
Because that's what they tried doing in Zombie Chronicles, but Zombie Chronicles' explanation, because I think they were more obsessed with giving them explanations, was like, you know, the timeline had like, there were so many different variations of the timeline. Even like Monty brings up that like, there are times where like, Ultimus Crew wasn't at Nock, but there are also times where they were at Nock, and that makes no sense. And he acknowledges that shouldn't make any sense. So I think if they were to do that, then just have fun with it. Don't connect it.
Yeah.
Play into it more. I think Zombies get so stuck in the weeds sometimes of like, how does all this connect thematically? when I think it could also be at its strongest if they just went full in on the insanity and every map was like something unexpectable. I think you could like flourish in a new way that way, because I think Zombies has gotten so in its patterns recently that it's lost its spontaneousness or spontaneity.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Okay.
Yeah. What about you? How would you feel about that?
Same exact way you feel, man. Honestly, I'm kind of on the same boat there. Okay, let's get to the community corner. We're coming up on an hour and a half here, so let's get this in and out clean. Before we get into the questions, I've been asking all of the creators that I have here this simple yet profound question. What got you into content creation? Why did you start? And like, why the Zombies community? Like, what inspired you to really get into content creation here and join our community?
Yep, I've been making content since 2018, right before the launch of Black Ops 4, and it was simply out of a desire of I wasn't seeing videos that I thought that I wanted to watch, or at least not in the way that I wanted to watch them. I think there were very few creators who were doing map reviews at the time. Not many people were looking at things critically, and a lot of the content that I watched was just about as basic as like, what's the new feature and what's the new thing I can make a quick little video off of. So I wanted to see people go more in depth and talk about zombies with a more like fair lens. That was something that was like super important to me, and I've been super proud of my videos that I put out. And apparently it resonates with people. So that's something that inspires me to keep going and keep making content.
Who was your
I don't know if I missed all the question.
No, you're cool. Who was like your biggest inspiration on YouTube, I guess? Or if you have like somebody that you modeled your content after, or somebody that you watched originally and you were like, this is why. I know you just said it's because you didn't see videos you liked, but like, do you have anybody that you're this is what
I do have people I absolutely would, yeah. He's not gonna like it, but I'm gonna say John Rizzo. He hates it.
That's what I was gonna say.
He hates it when people say that if you looked up to him or that you were inspired by him, because he'll be like, why are you inspired by me? I'm just a guy. But it was like, I saw what he was making and I thought it was really cool. And especially when I was first making videos, I would like write stuff on my script and I would like talk as if it was his voice in my head, as if like that would help me get an analytical like voice and like verbose when I was writing stuff. So now that I've had a lot more time on my own, I've definitely developed my own voice with how I do my own content. And that's something I'm super proud of. Took me so long to get there.
I was gonna say that's who. Not that you remind me of, but I watched a lot of your older reviews.
Oh no, absolutely!
Over the past
and you
few days.
you get that John energy, yeah, because that was who I was basing it off of.
Because I've been watching his content since like literally the OG. I remember watching like MW3, like OG MW3 like funny, unserious or serious weapon guide tutorial, and I'm just like going through that and then watching his reviews, and then I saw you, and I was like, dude, this guy reminds me so much of him. And then like he stopped doing it kind of right around the time that I started, figuring out about you and watching your stuff. And I was like, damn, dude, he's like passing the torch to Stanley here in terms of like the just quality, the every shot is correlating to what you're talking about, like just like the pride that you take in your work and stuff. But no, dude, yeah, that's awesome. I can see the vision there with the comparison. And then yeah, it's like I watched the Ghost review yesterday and I was like, okay, it's like it still has that style, but like at the same time, like it's your own, like you've really come into to own it.
It's that Stanley557 like nerd voice.
Oh man.
At like and going firing on all cylinders. So that's where I've been like super engaged in making stuff.
Cool.
So I mean, currently my goal is to get all like it's gonna be 13 next year. At some point, get a review out for every single game, all 13 of them. Oof. And currently, I'm up to 6 out of 13.
Let's go.
I've got under my belt. I've got IW, AW, World War II, Cold War, MWZ, and now Extinction. So I'm running out of ways to avoid talking about BO3 and BO4.
I know, because I was looking and I'm like, I can't believe we haven't done like BO3. And I was like looking through your videos and stuff, but those are gonna be bangers, dude. I'm gonna be excited to see those when they eventually come out.
8-hour like BO4 review.
Yeah.
That's where we're working up to. BO6 review is looking to be 5 hours.
It's just training for the next one.
I have to work on a 5-hour video. Why do I keep doing this to myself? But no, I'm really excited. So
awesome. Okay. Well, getting into the actual community corner now, we have 3 different questions for 2 specifically for you, 1 for the community corner. We're gonna start off with Zonex. He says, question for Stanley. What do you have on Elon to do so much juice to Twitter to drop all these banger tweets without having a blue tick?
That is so kind. I'm gonna be honest. I'd probably don't tell my work. I'm probably on Twitter more than I should be. But honestly, it's just me coming up with the dumbest thing imaginable, and then like being like, wait a second, I should make a tweet off of that, to the point where some of my buddies will make fun of me. Because we played a game of Shadows of Evil, and like when you walk up to the Footlight District, there's a sign for coming soon, into the tomb, or escape from the tomb. And I was like, wait, the tomb? I have to make a tweet off of this. And now they make fun of me saying, are you gonna make a tweet off of that now? So it bounces back in my face sometimes. But no, I think the biggest thing is like I'm so dedicated to zombies, and I really don't think people actually like grasp how much I think about this stuff and how much like it's in my head at all times. It is like my whole life is wrapped around this. My whole life is being so excited for this. This is my special interest that I've chosen to go after.
Right.
And I seriously could not be more like engaged in it in every single moment of my day. And while there are a lot of tweets that are just really stupid, I'd like to think that I talk about enough that it like people resonate with it, and that's really important to me.
I think that shows in the engagement that you get too.
I do, yeah. Way more engagement than you think a guy who just talks about only zombies would.
Okay, he also has like a follow-up here. He says, okay, a more serious question though. As someone who isn't into the story much outside of all the intro, outro cutscenes when they have them, I feel like I know less about our main crew than I did before Black Ops 6 even started. Do you think Treyarch dropped the ball on this? And if so, do you see them picking it back up again? Kind of talked about that, but I mean, now, basically, I guess, do you see them picking the ball up with the current crew?
I hope so. And if they do, they can't do the operator system with them. Like what I was diagnosing this in my like when working my script. The biggest issue that the Terminus crew has is that like there's not enough voice lines for them. Where on Terminus alone, I'd say there's about 35 minutes of voice lines, and 20 minutes of that is designated to operator lines that show up, or maybe 25 minutes, that show up on every single map. They are written with this certain machismo and certain like macho energy that makes the character sound really weird, and they're basically throwaway lines. You can't even use them to dissect the character. They're meant to just be operator lines. They're basically meant to stand in for operator lines. Whereas I was comparing it to Voyage of Despair, and there are over, for Diego alone, let me pull up the exact time. There are 50 minutes of quotes for just Diego.
Oof.
So on the 3 maps that he's on, he has over 2.5 hours worth of dialogue. I'm pretty sure with the 5 maps that our characters have been on, they don't even scratch 1 hour.
Yeah, probably. It doesn't feel like it.
Like it's just barely over an hour if you combine character quotes and like solo quotes. Whereas like on Voyage alone, Diego has conversations. He has like interactions with the environment. He has solo unique quotes. He has round 1, 2, and 3 unique quotes. He has quotes for the boss fight. He has quotes for entering the boss fight. He has quotes for the boss doing different attacks. He has quotes for the Eye of Odin doing a screen nuke. He has quotes when you hit the boss. He has quotes in between phases. He has quotes when he uses a specialist weapon. He has quotes and they're all unique every single time. Whereas Weaver has the exact same quotes about cryo freeze on every single map that he uses it on. And in the boss fight on Terminus, they barely even react to Patient 13. They react to Peck two to 3 times. Peck and Strauss in between phases in the boss fight. That's all they say. So if they want to not drop the ball, they need to give the Primis Crew voice lines, or whoever the crew is. They need to be willing to commit to giving them voice lines, and they need to not cut corners on that aspect. So that's a really important aspect to it. And if you're not going to give them a whole lot of voice lines, then every single voice line that you do give them needs to count. And I think that they get so caught up in trying to force them to be funny, like Weaver and the gang, because they're afraid you're not going to think that he's funny, that it comes off as not funny.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, dude. I just remember back to Black Ops 4, like, I don't remember who it was. Maybe it's, Talon, maybe? Somebody uploads, like, all of the...
Talon. Yeah. They upload all, like, there's people who upload all of them, and I'm super indebted to that. Josh Woo Cool.
Yep.
He did the BO4 ones.
Yep. I just remember, like, sitting there, like, just listening to the conversations between the individual characters and stuff, and that's something that I think that like it happens a little bit nowadays, but it's not nearly on the level that it was before. So I think for sure that with BO7, if the Primis Crew is coming back, there needs to be like an hour and a half of dialogue for not really an hour of dialogue for each individual character, kind of like processing like what happened. You know, I remember being in the forest and now we're here and I thought this was it, or I thought we were going to end everything. Like really, you have to go. You can't just be like picking up like nothing happened from before.
Like another issue I have with Treyarch's writing too is that every single first 2 maps that they do, the dialogue is completely pointless.
Yeah.
Like they're really heavy on setup and payoff, but they're also really bad about making anything like interesting on the first 2 maps. Like every single Voyage conversation quote might be some of the most worthless dialogue that you could ever listen to. Whereas in comparison, like Ancient Evil, they're talking about like the High Priest. They're talking about seeing him again. They're talking about like his father. They're talking about like Scarlett's father. Scarlett even like brings up when she was a baby once and how that might be important to who she is. They bring up like Bruno's voice in his head that didn't get brought up in the first 2 maps at all. And it's like same thing with Cold War. Like Weaver and the gang talking on the comms are so pointless in the first 2 maps, and then by Forsaken, every line that they say has at least pretty much story relevance, as all the characters, like you've got Weaver, Gray, Strauss, Carver, you've got Peck, you've got Weaver, you've got Ravenov talking, you've got Zykov talking, you have all these different forces, you have Sam on that map. So it's like that sure feels like the story's actually doing something. Same thing with Shattered Veil. The story was in the dookie water until Rick Toffin finally got involved and the story started moving at a good pace that felt like something was going somewhere. Yep. So yes, tangent aside, please don't just waste your 30 minutes of dialogue with our characters on Terminus sounding like they've been there for 6 months when they've been there for 6 years and they don't feel like they have been there for that long.
Perk, you heard it, man. Okay. Our second question is from Skylar Warren. They said, question...
Skylar! I love Skylar!
Let's go.
Skylar's one of my OG fans.
Really? Oh, okay, perfect. I'm glad that I picked this question then. They said, question for Stanley, and I like this a lot. Has there ever been a moment where you almost stopped being a fan of zombies? If not, then what will make you stop enjoying the game?
That's a really good question.
It's going to be like, yeah, it's when Primis comes back.
No, surprisingly, it's going to take a bit more than that. When will I stop being into zombies? I don't know. I think everyone has their own thresholds. I think it's like most people stop when it stops feeling like zombies to them, and that's usually the cutoff. It'll probably be the day it stops feeling like zombies to me. And even if it like stops, I've got over 13 games or 12 games right now that I'm confident in talking about till the end of time. Like if Crazy Rabbit and you know other guys can make it work off of like World at War to BO2, I think I can work with World at War to BO6 and be comfortable with that. Like if, let's say BO7 is the worst game ever and the entire game is just Kevin Drew pulling a middle finger saying, "Hey Stanley557, this is me killing Diego Nicali," and then he shoots him and that's the entire gameplay loop, then I might stop. But times where I almost stopped loving the franchise. I think there have been times where I've been like interested in playing other games for a little bit.
Oh,
despite how
healthy?
small that list is. Yeah, being healthy and trying other things. I know, right? Crazy. But no, usually it's always like zombies is the thing I bounce back to. And so far there have been no signs of it stopping. In fact, it's only gotten stronger since I've gotten a job. Now there are like more times where like I get home and I just want to like think about zombies, talk about zombies. Like honestly, I'm addicted to these podcasts.
Let's go.
Because I can't shut up and I can't stop talking about it. So it's always just, I feel like it's this weird, and it's just this pure cycle of enjoyment that I get. I have times where I get annoyed with it, but it really is like in my world, it is always like, I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to share my thoughts on it. And clearly I spend a bit too much time thinking and talking about it. So
I think that's what the community needs is people like you that are just so into it. And like you said earlier, you've made it like your hobby, your main interest outside of, personal life and things. But no, yeah, dude, like I think that we need people like you to have a voice that can articulate your thoughts, your distastes or your pleasure for the mode in a presentable manner that isn't just, 2 or 3 words. Like, need more of it, dude. I think that you need to keep doing what you're doing. and never stop
be honest,
enjoying this game, hopefully.
There are times where I think to myself, is this really going to be the day where I buy Twitter Blue just so I can write paragraphs like Afterlife and have entire like page-long essays on a tweet, and people will be like, I'm not reading all that.
It's going to happen.
It gets to the point where there are days where my tweets are too long and I'm writing like basically like 8-part tweets, and I'm like, man, am I really about to buckle down and spend the garbage 99 on Twitter Blue?
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah, literally.
Okay, last question is from Neo Awakened. They said, community corner question. Are well-received launches bad omens? I ask this because usually a well-received launch means they stick to something similar, i.e. Cold War to BO6. Meanwhile, BO3 had a poor launch because of trying something new, Apothicons, and maybe this is the reason why people are complaining about content in BO6, or with the game feeling the same with each new map because the game at its core is similar to Cold War but improved. I still like it.
Yeah, they almost hit the nail on the head, and as I've talked about it, like, yeah, most maps feel samey just because like they're very like foundation heavy, so it's like everything's built off of a like base. And then they just like make the same map, but it's like, you know, slightly different environment and enemies. But anyways, about the question, I'm not sure, because I think that like we're in this weird era of the internet, where as the internet has evolved, like as someone who is like you and I have grown up directly with it, where like we've watched it be like, you know, BO1 times there was no community at all. It was just people on forums. By the time you got to BO3, it like became like a YouTuber community, and that was pretty big. And then by like modern era, we have people online. We've got people in different circles. Like, you know, we're in our own circle entirely. Like what we do, like you and I, Donuts, John, Dalek, JC, Chopper, all of us, like we're all in our own circle. And then there's like the outer band of like the unknown regions of the zombies community. That's where like 90% of the people who actually play the games are. And they don't talk about stuff because they don't care to. I'm not sure if a good launch is a bad omen. I think that's just the COD cycle in general.
Yeah.
It's just COD cycle. It's hype for anything in general. I think we get so like caught up on it being called the COD cycle. Any form of media is going to be directly like that. Like movies will be well loved when they're launched. Like, you know, good easy example is Deadpool, Wolverine.
Yep.
But then if you like start talking to someone about it now, it's gonna be like Deadpool and Wolverine's the least funny movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But the movie made $1 billion, so clearly it did something
right.
So if I don't think it's a bad omen. I think it's just like that's just the hype for stuff normally. I think it's up to you, the audience at home, to develop your own opinions on how you feel about stuff. If you want my opinion real quick on BO6, that's not a 5-hour long review. I think the game's a lot of fun. I think it just has like foundational issues, and I think that it's so easy to get caught up in the yearly like seasonal release of stuff. Whereas like in retrospect, these games are probably better than we give them credit for. I think it's just so easy to be reactionary when all the content's out for it.
Right. Yeah, I completely share the similar opinion there, especially when you equate it to other things like movies, other games, stuff like that. It drops, everyone's hype as fuck, and then it falls off a little bit, and then you go back and you watch the movie 3-4 years down the line, you're like, oh, this was you know, that's just how humans are, especially in the modern era of technology and everything at our fingertips and reactionary culture and stuff. The one thing that he did say though was that usually a well-received launch means they stick to something similar, i.e. Cold War to BO6. I don't really know if I agree with that, because like Cold War, the launch was like kind of positive, but it wasn't like overly positive as much as BO6 was. I also think like a good launch wouldn't mean that they wouldn't try new things in the DLC season, because I feel like most of that content is already developed before launch even happens. Like I'm sure they're still working on like DLC 3 or 4 when the game comes out, but like DLC 1, especially for Citadel, that had to have been like done by the time. That could have probably
usually DLC 2 is usually done by launch.
Yeah, I was gonna say that,
and then DLC 4 is usually done by April.
Yeah, like that stuff, especially Citadel, could have been in at launch. Not that I'm saying I wanted it to be, but like I don't think like they could be like, oh well, we're gonna keep all these mechanics in at launch instead of completely overhauling it. The only like I guess example of that in the zombies community ever has maybe been like Transit and Die Rise to Mob of the Dead, where it seems like they kind of did like a 180 with some of the gameplay choices. But again, that stuff was already had to have been being worked on for maybe a year. I mean, maybe not 2-3 years, but a year at that point. So no, yeah, I would agree that the launches don't necessarily mean bad omens. It might just be like, everyone comes out swinging, and then we all play the game for a month and a half, 2 months nonstop. You put in 2 weeks in the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks of the game's out of in-game time, and then you're so burnt out that you're like, I don't want to grind weapons anymore. I've done the Easter egg 15 times over. Like, I'm done with the game. It's not holding my attention. It's bad, but like that's how it always is.
Is this coming from personal experience?
No, dude, no. Honestly, like this has been one of the only years that I've like constantly been. Maybe it's because I'm doing content full time now, but like even with BO3,
I was like, you're one of the most dedicated guys that I know that's been playing this game this year. Like, you're the guy who's been like on the ball, besides maybe like Chat of Duty,
dude.
Like on the ball with everything.
I don't know. I listen again. Like I'm somebody that has played Blackout, Warzone since Blackout. I've been playing multiplayer since I was 1v1ing my neighbor at like age 4 or 5 on like COD 2 on the original Xbox, whatever. Like I've been playing for so long in all the different modes that like. This year, I know multiplayer isn't as good as previous years, probably not even as good as last year. The maps were not that great coming into launch. I think some of the DLC maps have been fun. With Warzone, everyone in the zombies community is just like, fuck Warzone. It's the worst thing in the world. It needs to go. Like, maybe like Battle Royale in general, but I think like Resurgence has been kind of fine aside from the hacking problems. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I've just had such a fun time with this game. Like I enjoy camo grinding new weapons when they come out, trying out new things, trying the weapons that they buff and that they nerf, and just seeing what they're doing. Like it's kind of cool to be able to do this full time, cover the game full time, see what they're changing in real time, see how the community reacts, like see everything from a lens like that rather than be on the outside looking in where it's just like, oh, I just looked at the new update and then dropped it. But no, I think it's been a pretty fun year, and it might not be perfect, but hey, I'd rather have it be this way than have nothing for 3 years or have Vanguard, MWZ, MW2 back to back to back.
Oh my goodness. I think back to the MWZ year, and that year it has its ups and downs, and man, were those downs really bad.
The downs were down bads, but the ups are okay.
Yeah. But I think, is that all the questions?
Yeah, that's it for the podcast, man. I really appreciate you dedicating nearly 2 hours for this, man. This is definitely the longest episode. I feel like every time we have a guest on, the episodes get longer and longer, but I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on and hang out with me and discuss the state of our wonderful mode and give your opinions. We'd absolutely love to have you again at some point in the future. Hopefully Jeff will actually be home next time, so get to meet him and have a little bit of a, more, he's more divisive. He was like, dude, you got to hammer Stanley on Black Ops 4, because that was like the one game that he just didn't really play very much, but I was like, I don't know, I'm not going to force hate just to get some content farming at the beginning of the video.
Me, you could try and force hate on me, and I would spin around and be like, well, you're very valid for thinking that.
Right.
Here are my thoughts.
Right. No, but I appreciate you, dude. Keep up the good work on YouTube. No,
you guys have been killing it with the podcast. I loved thank you. I love the donuts one. I thought that one was great.
Appreciate it, dude. Yeah, we have to get I'd love to have a huge round table for one episode where we get 8 different people on and just have this huge discussion about the game, the state of the game, just to see what it'd be like. Because I feel like there aren't very many examples of that. I think that'd be a good way to maybe have some devs also get some feedback all in one place too.
I would love it if some of those devs just stepped out a little bit and we got to talk to them and ask them all this stuff.
Just be like, hey, we won't grill you, we won't absolutely slam you, I won't put you on the spot, but need to get I feel like that'd be so cool to hear what they have to say and get their point of view of things. I know they probably have NDAs and shit that they can't talk about the majority of stuff, but it would be cool. One thing I would, before we end up here, I know Citadel took forever to get an update out for the sword buff, and then there were a lot of problems and glitches that came with it because they rushed it out, and it took a month to really get that back to where it needed to be. But I mean, that happened around the holiday season, and I understand as a content creator, as a human being, I've worked a job, you work a job, I understand those people have to go home and see their families, and I know it's a AAA studio, $1 billion company, but you can't have people overworking the entire year and then get to the it'd be just interesting to see from their perspective what it's actually like working on a game like that, and the content highs and lows, the swings, the grind of it all, and then seeing you put all this hard work into the game, you step away for 2 weeks and you come back and it the whole fucking room's on fire.
I know. See, that's the biggest thing too, is that you said it right there, they're human at the end of the day. And if there's any message I would pass on to the zombies community or any community in general, people online who are just so spiteful, we're all human at the end of the day. And you can be mad about something, you can be upset, but let's respond in an appropriate way that actually is productive to a conversation. Right. And that's where I would leave that out. But thank you for having me.
Of course, dude. Is there anything you want to promote before we end the episode?
No. You know what, guys? Go watch MZC.
Boo. And, boo. Other creators, Stanley, go watch the Ghosts review.
Yeah, go watch the Extinction review. That's really all I'm going to promote. I'm trying to think. Who's been killing it recently that I would say go watch. Hold on. You're gonna have to cut to it when I finally find the person I'm thinking of.
We're not cutting away. We're letting this roll for the ad right now. I'm kidding.
Go watch Expert Fusion and go watch Nova V2. Those guys have been killing it recently.
Yeah, they have.
I know Nova's coming back with a new video recently, or coming up soon, so should be exciting. But that's all I have to say. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Let's go. Big shout out to Stanley once again for coming on. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Perkaholics Anonymous Podcast. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe, turn those notifications on for everything BO6. We got the Olympia coming up this week. With that being said, see you guys next week for episode 8. Jeff will be back, hopefully, maybe, probably never. Peace.